Ramarava Kunjabihari Jaya Ramarava Kunjabihari Jaya Ramarava Kunjabihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Kota Vaishnavinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Prem Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shri Vas Adi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhu. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. There was a different speaker scheduled for today, and this morning I was told that the person wasn't feeling so well, and I was asked could I come and speak tonight at short notice, and I agreed. This is why I'm here. I don't usually speak Bhagavad Gita class, and I'm not sure of the format, so you please advise me as I'm going along if it's a different order of you please tell me what I should be doing, and I'm happy to help however I can. The verse allocated was 249, is that correct? Turenaya Varman Karma Turenaya Varam Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddhi Yoga Jananjaya Buddho Saramanam Vicha Buddho Saranamam Vicha Kripana Palahet Vaya Ava Kripanaha Lahet Ava Turenaya Kamam Dharma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddho Saranaham Vicha Kripanapam Lahet Vaya Bhogi Yoga Dhananjaya Saranam Vicha Yaram Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddho Saranaham Vicha Kripana Palayatvaha Tureraya Varam Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddho Saranaham Vicha Kripana Palayatvaha Varam Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddho Saranam Vicha Pramana Palahet Ava Tuyeyaram Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buddham Saranam Vicha Kripanapala Hetava Tuyayadaham Karma Buddhi Yoga Dhananjaya Buho Saranam Vicha Kripanapala Hetava. The word for word meanings. Durena, discard it at a long distance. He, certainly. Avaram, abominable. Karma, activity. Vidhi yogat, on the strength of Krishna consciousness. Dhananjaya, O conqueror of wealth. Buddha, in such consciousness. Shravanam, full sender. And Vicha, try for. Kripana, misers. Palahetavaha, those desiring fruitive results. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distanced by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they have acquired by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nirvasesa Sunyavadi Paskacha Desatarne Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shri Vas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The first thing I noticed when I read this is that the word misers is used 4 times. 4 times in a short paragraph, the word miser. And the other thing I notice is that material activity is described as abominable. So miser is a special word in the English language, and it means a person who, although he has some riches, it means a person, he's moderately rich, but he doesn't like to spend a single penny. Most people get some enjoyment from buying things, even if it's just to go to the back of the temple and to buy 20 rupee puri and sabji. It's like we get the puri and sabji, and it's enjoyable. We like this. And sometimes a person will enjoy buying for other people. I see very commonly when I see a group of Indian people, maybe several families joined together. I don't know quite who's who, but I think they must be joined by marriage. And then when they buy something, it's whatever they buy. Sugarcane juice or something in the restaurant. And there's almost a fight. People insisting that I pay. No, and it's a whole thing. And I wonder, are they just pretending they want to pay and just this is the social etiquette? But I really genuinely think that they enjoy paying for the others, especially paying for their children or buying their wife something, or that they enjoy doing this. They have worked hard for their money, they have some money, and now they want to spend it on something, some enjoyable thing. And this is normal. People all over the world, sometimes they enjoy spending money so much, they spend more money than they have. They put it on the plastic card. And they've spent more than they have, so then they have to pay off the bills. Or I see all the time, State Bank of India, borrow money for a scooter, borrow money for this, borrow money. So people are spending money before they have even earned the money. And this is very common also, people living on credit. So the miser, he is the very opposite of this. He has money, but he doesn't want to spend a single penny. Sometimes there is, in the Western world, there is some newspaper article. The person has died, and they thought he was a poor person, he wears old clothes, and he, just not spending a penny. And then they find crores of rupees in his house, crores of dollars. They think, wow, and bank accounts and so many things. So it's maybe a disease that a person, they get more delight, perverted delight, from not spending anything than they would in buying something. So it's a strange mentality.
Beggars giving, they are found with a lot of tax.
Yes.
Money.
Yes.
Beggars.
Yes.
Even though they are begging, they have a lot of money, even then they are begging.
Yes. There was one case in my hometown, in the capital city. One person, he was a young man, but he thought, I will become a thief because then I can make money so quickly. So the kind of stealing he wanted to do was to become a pickpocket. You bump into, oh, sorry, and you take his phone or you take his wallet. Oh, sorry, and it's just, so it's a science, it's an art. To get into the man's pocket, you have to study him first. Where does he have his money? You think, yes, it's in this pocket. They do it in the temples here. They take your pocket, take you. So this young man, he thought, I need some practice, otherwise I'll get caught very quickly. So he decided that he would practice on an old beggar man. And oh, sorry, and he went in and he got in and he took his wallet, and he was so surprised there was lakhs and lakhs of rupees in this old beggar person's wallet. And there was so much money, he was so amazed that he was spending money on this and that in a very outrageous fashion, and everyone knew so the police arrested him, and then the story came out. He robbed this old beggar. He was didn't want to spend a penny. So this is the miser, and it's this was the miser, and so here it's saying that people who don't want to engage in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said they are misers. And I thought, wow, this is a very, very strong term, because in the material world, the miser is a very special person who doesn't want to spend a penny. Whereas most everyone else, they work hard. Every city, you see them going to work in the morning at an early time. They go to work, they work long day, they come home, and then they've got their salary. They're spending on different things for their family and for their relatives and for their personal enjoyment and so on and so on. But Prabhupada's saying all these people are misers because they're not engaged in Krishna consciousness. And then this other word was abominable. So abominable, it's a very strong word, and it basically means the worst thing you can imagine. So a person with the worst character, the biggest gunda, the biggest charsobis, just no quality, just terrible person, the most terrible. This is the word abominable. It's. I don't know if there's a stronger word than abominable. I'd have to think for some time. It's a very, very strong word. You cannot get much stronger. You can't get much worse than abominable. That's pretty much as low as you can go. I'd have to think very specially if there's any word stronger. So he's saying also that these activities are abominable if they don't. So it's very, very strong language, which emphasizes Srila Prabhupada's sense of urgency, the sense of urgency for the fallen souls. And this was his impetus, this was his reason to go to the Western world in the first place. He was an older man. He thought, I have to go now, I'll never go. He went to the Western countries, and it was just so it was so bad there. He had to beg Srimati Morarji for a ticket. And he was going again and again asking for the ticket. At one point she said, Swamiji, she said, you really do not want to go to New York. She said, I've been there. It's a very degraded place. And it's no place for a sadhu. This is not. I mean, even the sadhus have a difficult time in Delhi or Mumbai. It's just, no one are interested in spiritual life. People are doing so many sinful things, breaking so many principles, liquor shops and meat restaurants, and what a sadhu will do there. She said, I will build you a little temple. I'll build you a little temple, Swamiji, you just have your little place in Vrindavan. She was impressed by his sincerity. So he's a good man, he's writing, he wants to do something, he's a good person. And I can afford to make him comfortable in his old age. She was thinking like this would be good seva for her. He's a sadhu, but she said, you don't want to go to New York. But Prabhupada was insisting, and she sent him. When the devotees were doing the biography of Prabhupada, and they went there, they were asking her what happened. She was saying, I'm not quite sure of the dates and stuff, but it's all in the archives, all the notes, it's everything. Go into the records. So in the dusty old records room, they found exactly what happened. So when she gave him the ticket, she sent a telegram to New York to her agent. She told him, one sadhu is coming, he's my guest, he's coming to New York to look around. She said, you make sure that there's passage for him on the next ship coming back. So it was 10 days. And she was worried that 10 days would be too long for Prabhupada to be there. She felt really bad that something wasn't coming back in 2 days. But that was the stopover, that was the loading, that was the whole... It was 10 days. So she told them, so you make sure. She's the GBC, tell them, this is more than your job's worth. It's direct order. You make sure he comes back, make sure there's passage. So nobody thought, and even Prabhupada, on the way there, what he's writing and the diary he kept, he didn't, because it's such an abominable, such sinful places, sinful. So, this chapter 2, Arjun, he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to. In verse 9, now we're 49 today, verse 9, he's saying, I will not fight. Puts down, I will not fight. My relatives are there. Better I be a beggar. Better I have nothing. But how can I kill my teacher, my friend, my relatives, what kind of person I am? So then there are some very famous verses that devotees use. They quote the very famous verses right after. That's verse 9, 11, 12, 13. These are famous verses. People quote them. So the first one is, Krishna says, while speaking learned words, you are grieving for what is not worthy of grief. Because the wise, they don't lament. They don't lament for the living. They don't lament for the dead. He said, just as a body, a person changes from youth to manhood to old age, so then also there's another body after one dies. So it's, what is the cause of lamentation? And he says, now you're very sad, but happiness and sadness are just like the winter and summer seasons. Just a few weeks ago we were wearing warm clothes, and now again, I washed all my warm clothes, washed them, packed them, put them away, I have a couple of blankets I still have to wash. So then I'm packing them away there. We use them for a few months in the winter. Otherwise it's too hot. What do you need something warm for? So Krishna was saying like this, like summer and winter season. It just comes and goes, and birth and death, and why you're so upset, why you're so upset. Then again there's a series of verse 20, 22, 23. Krishna is saying, the person, the jiva, is not slain when the body is slain. He's saying it's just like old garments. You have an old piece of cloth, you wear it, you throw it away, you replace it with something new. And the soul, can it be cut, can it be burned, can it be moistened, can it be wet, can it be dried with the wind? So all the things that make something old, all the influences which make something old, which make something weak, which make something withered, which he said this doesn't apply to the soul. So fighting with weapons, fighting with... So in verse 38, Krishna's advising you should fight. This is your job. You're a Kshatriya. He's giving so many reasons. You should fight without thinking of happiness and distress, loss or gain. And in 39 to 48, there's a series of verses in which Krishna describes in various ways how a person is not entitled to the fruits of their activities. That a person should work for the sake of working, do your duty, do your... he's saying abandon all ideas of success, failure, attachment, So then this is this verse tonight, verse 49. He's saying that here in the purport, one who's actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements set working in Krishna consciousness. Many times here in India, I have seen in various places that slowly private individuals, they encroach on property belonging to the state. It happens on the side of roads, it happens in forest areas, and here it was happening on the banks of the Jamuna. So the government is keeping some land empty at the side of the river in case there's flooding, in case the river moves and so on. And people were illegally stealing the land and squatting and building something and this and that and getting away with it for many years. But then the government says, no, no, no. Out the front here, the road widening, and they say, no, you have to move, you have to. So this is encroaching. So if a person does something like this illegally, if you're lucky, they can get away with it for some time, sometimes 20 years. You can be there for 20 years, then the government says, no, no, this, they come with the bulldozers. Our one devotee place where Tamal Krishna was, the government came one time with bulldozers. They said the Parikram path that everyone has just built on to the, and especially they build on the upper stories. You have your right to the edge here, then the other one is over a bit, and they're almost touching and so on like this. So this is encroaching, and because it's done illegally, then one day you'll have nothing. It's because you're not entitled to be there. And this is like work in the material world. No matter what we do, no matter how we attain, no matter what we achieve, it's all gone at the time of death. Often before the time of death. Often people lose fortunes this way or that way. But most certainly it's not permanent because we lose it at the time of death. So Prabhupada is saying in the purport that anything you do in Krishna consciousness is eternal. You get eternal benefit from this. And he explains very simply in Nectar of Devotion that whatever you do in this lifetime, you take up from that point. And we can see this, that there's children, you see them, they just take to bhajan, they take to playing, the boy, he can't reach the drum, but he has some knowledge of playing it, he has some, there's been many, many phenomena like this. One time, some years ago, I was thinking, what can I do to increase my service to Srila Prabhupada? I was thinking like this. And I was thinking, I should become very expert at something so that I can use this for the devotees, serve the devotees. And I was thinking, maybe I should qualify as a school teacher. Then I can open an ashram. I thought I'll take the children on adventure holidays. We can hike in the Himalayas and make boats and swim in and just make it very exciting for the children. I was thinking maybe the children, they're not so excited. Then after this, I was thinking this for a while. Then I was thinking what I should do is learn business. And I can approach many different business people and business companies, devotees around the world, life members, so many things. And then I can get the children to go into these things. I can find employment for devotees and this and this. I was thinking this for some time. Then I was thinking I should study law, particularly charitable law and charitable fundraising. And that's what I did. I went and I took a degree in law. And when I was thinking to do this, I was thinking how much commitment was there and how long I had to study and like this and this. I was really thinking about it. So I went to see one friend of mine. He died, but he was in Delhi, and he was a very famous and, in my opinion, very, very accurate astrologer, a Jyotish. I had taken dozens and dozens of people to see him, and I was really amazed at how accurate he was, just by knowing nothing about the person. He just get their time of death, time of birth. What he would do, he would, they would come and see him. He'd ask the thing, and he'd look at his ephemeris, and he would draw, and then he would tell them some things for 10 minutes about them, and they'd go, wow, yeah. And then he'd say, well, I can do a big chart, and it costs so much, and they'd say, yeah. And I would just, so he didn't know the person. I didn't say anything about the person. I say, oh, just this person. They weren't talking, they weren't doing, and he would just be so accurate. So I was just very, very impressed. So I actually found out about him because one devotee had known of him, and when Srila Prabhupada was sick, he wanted different astrologers to, and this person, he did the most impressive chart. And Hari Sori had gone to see him, and he said, I want you to do my Guru Maharaj. He said, and immediately he said, wow, what a saint. Just, wow, look at this, just so many exalted things, and just such a he was like, wow, he'd never seen such a chart. So he said, okay, I will do. So Hari Sori kept saying, how much is this going to be? And he said, no, don't have to worry. So Hari Sori was getting very frustrated. He was thinking, this man's going to cheat me because I want to know the price, and he won't tell me the price, and there's going to be a fight when, like you fight with the rickshawwalas and everyone else. But actually, the man had thought, wow, what a sadhu, I will do seva for this man. There will be no cost. But Hari, no, how much is it now? Anyway, when it came, it was such accurate and so detailed way that it was Tamal Krishnamurti. He said, hold on. He was very skeptic. Jewish, from New York, just very, very, very savvy, very, very streetwise, very businesslike, very New York. He said, hold on. How do we know this guy just hasn't read a biography of Prabhupada and wrote all the details? This is just, it's too good. Look at the other charts, look at this one, it's just too good. How do we know this? And people were saying, yeah, he's probably done that, yes. And and then someone said, is there a biography of Prabhupada? Do we have a biography of Prabhupada? And then they were saying, no, we don't, do we? And they said, well, how did he get this information? And then, so they accepted that he actually was. And that's how I first heard about it. I went so many. Anyway, when I was thinking to study law, I went to see him and I said, I'm thinking to study law, but it's so many years and this and this. He said, yeah. And he said, yeah, you can do, because, and for 3 different reasons. He gave this, you have this conjunction here, you have this yoga here, you have this 3 different, he said, from different ways. He said, you'll be very good at this. He said, you can do different types of law, this and I said, okay. I said, I think I can do it. I have an attraction to it. But I said, will I use it? Will I, I'm older now, will I get use from this? And he said, yeah. He said, just use it in your next life. I said, what do you mean? He said, whatever you take a lot of pains to study in this life, he said, you have that natural ability. So you see a person, they're good at dance, they're good at mathematics, they're good at piano, the boy plays the drum, people have a natural aptitude. He said, this is how it works. So mostly this is lost, mostly. And whatever we build up, we are a famous singer, a famous dancer. This is lost. But I'm using this as an example, is whatever we do in Krishna consciousness, this is for our eternal benefit. So Srila Prabhupada, his vantage point, the way he's looking at things, is that whatever a person does that's not for their eternal benefit is simply a waste of time. It's a child building a little mud castle in the earth. And he's doing this, there's a little stone for the door, the child is so absorbed in this, but it's actually just a waste of time. So the example is given that, just imagine that you're on this piece of encroached land somewhere. That's your house, that's where you live, it's where your grandfather lived, this is your house. And then the government, they come along, they put letters in, they give a notice that in 6 months' time, this all has got to go. We're widening the road, we're making so many things, whatever they want to do. An airport, now they're doing a big airport near the Jamuna Expressway, so many hundreds of hectares of land, they're just acquiring it for its compulsory purchase order. Now, with the encroachment, they're not even going to pay you, it's their land, you're here illegally, we're just going to bulldoze it, we're going to knock it all down. So, a person with any intelligence, he doesn't spend any more time fixing up the property. The roof's leaking a little bit, and the mouse has made a little hole, it comes in, and the tap's not working, it drips, and there's different things that need to be done. The light keeps fusing, or there's so many little things, little maintenance tasks that need to be done. What to speak of improving the place, even to maintain the place. So as soon as he has a list of jobs to do, his wife wants all these things done, but as soon as there is notice to quit, the intelligent person, what he does, he starts looking for a new place to stay. There's no point in fixing anymore because you're going to have to leave soon. And this is how it is with the material body. We've all been given notice to quit. One time, Prabhupada was being interviewed in the United States, and a reporter was asking about India and this and so many things, and Prabhupada was just telling her. And then she said, well, what about the death rate in India? And Prabhupada said, it's the same everywhere, it's 100%. It's not any different in India, it's the same as here. 100% of the people die. So because 100% of the people die, but we don't know when we're going to die. And then when Yudhisthira in the Mahabharata, he was asked the questions, he said, this is the greatest puzzle. That everybody knows everybody's going to die, but people are continuing as if they're going to live forever. And this is the madness of having this illusion that we're in the material body. So Srila Prabhupada, who was a very advanced soul, and he could see this, that although we're thinking that we're enjoying so nicely, and in analysis, we're not actually enjoying so nicely, but we're convinced that very soon we will be enjoying nicely. As soon as Smara Hari stops talking, I'm going to go to the temple and I'm going to get some maha. I get the puri, I think maybe get a piece of cake, maybe. Then I will enjoy nicely. So most of our enjoyment is we have some plans that in the future we will enjoy. I get home, I'll turn on the AC, it's not really that we're enjoying so much. But if we've been given notice to quit, then what is even the point of, we got to move somewhere. We got to. So from Srila Prabhupada's point of view, it's material life that we want to compete with others. We want to get a chair in the temple room. We want to sit on a chair. There's only so many seats in the prasadam room. I see the old people going quickly to get a seat. They want to get it. They don't want the floor. They're looking. Some of the tough old ladies, they come over to the men's side. They take the chair from the men. They take it over to their side. So there's a lot of competition for the resources. It's very natural. Everybody does it. The whole system is, I have a friend and his son wants to go, I don't know what it's called, you tell me. He wants to work in government service. And he's thinking he'd like to work in an embassy, in a foreign, what is this called? He takes exams, and you what is it called?
Competition test.
Yeah. Okay. So the point is, there's hundreds of thousands of people applying for a couple of hundred posts. And he knows a person who's in the diplomatic service. The guy is actually an ambassador. This man he knows, and his son going to the, he said, I want to do this. He said, I want power, more than money. I'd like to have power. People are afraid of the ambassador. He goes through and he said, this is what I want. No. So he wanted to do like this, but then the ambassador told him, you won't pass the exam the first time. You won't pass the exam the second time. You might get a good mark the third time. Probably it's going to be the fourth time. So the point I'm making, that there's a lot of competition for a few spots. In Bollywood, they make many movies. More than Hollywood. They actually make more movies in Bollywood than they do in Hollywood. But Hollywood and Los Angeles, they make many, many movies. And many people are writing a script to try to get it made into a movie. Once you get one script into a movie, people want your other script. You can become very, very wealthy as a scriptwriter. So, in order to encourage the people who are writing the scripts, the movie industry, which is maybe, there's 3 big ones, but maybe there's maybe 6 or 7 different movie companies. They've formed an association, and they have an agreement with the Script Writers Guild that each year they will choose one of the scripts that they're not, usually they'll make a movie, it's been a famous book, or there's a famous personality, or they'll make a movie about the Russian-Ukraine fighting, there'll be a movie, it's something that's really big. People say, oh, I want to see that John F. Kennedy got killed, there's a movie about it. So it's usually a very famous event, because then they're guaranteed people are interested, they'll go and see the movie, they'll make a lot of money. The biggest, at the time, the biggest movie was Star Wars, and they went to 10 different movie studios, and everybody, they said, nah, it's not going to sell. It's, we want cowboys, westerns, shooting at the Indians. So this is what sells. No, this space fantasy, so nobody wanted it. No one wanted it, and it became, eventually it got done, it became the biggest movie ever at the time. So the movie companies, they have a deal with the Script Writers Guild that every year they will select a script and they'll make it into a movie. It's not a big thing, it might be an unknown person, but we'll pick one of those scripts, so everyone's writing a script, hoping that their script will get published. So every year, the members of the Script Writers Guild, there's thousands and thousands of people, and they've all paid their membership, they're part of the guild, they all write in scripts, and then they submit their script. It has to be a new script, not last year's script, it has to be a new script that they present. So every year there's more than 15,000 scripts presented, and one person, it's like trying to get a job in India, isn't it? One person gets and that's how impossible it is. And it's just, but somehow or other we're so convinced that we will be the one that's successful. We are going to be the one. We're going to do like this. We're going to, and where Srila Prabhupada, he just says that no one's successful. 100% is the death rate. How successful? Successful for a few years. And we also, in our illusion, we are thinking that this is a long time. 93 years old. He died. Wow, he had a long life. They say where I'm from, they say, oh, that was a good innings, like he's playing cricket and he gets a high score. Wow, 93, that was a good innings. That's the material scientists say that this planet is about 6 billion years old. They say it came into existence 6 billion years ago. If we look at the ages of Manu, we're in the 7th Manu. If we look at how long, what's a day of Brahma, how long's it, if we work it out like this, then this particular day of Brahma, because he sleeps at night, it's all wound down, but this particular day of Brahma, someone calculated, they told me, we're 43 trillion years. 43,000 million years. That's how long we are. But the scientists say it's not 43 trillion, it's only 6 billion. But even if we say 6 billion, even if we, okay, 6 billion. Everyone agrees, at least 6 billion. If we live for 93 years, a good person, he lives for 100 years. So if you do the mathematics, how many 100-year lifetimes can we get in 6 billion years? It's hundreds of millions of lifetimes. There's hundreds of millions of lifetimes at 100 years to make 6 billion. What to speak of 43 trillion? What to speak that this is one day of Brahma? He has a whole lifetime. There's so many Brahmas. There's so many. It's just so the word that's used to describe our conditioning is anadi. It's practically speaking, you can say eternally. Eternally we've been conditioned. Eternally. And each lifetime I'm writing another script, one of the 15,000, hope that one's going to get picked, hoping against hope that somehow or other I'm going to become a happy person. And that is how Srila Prabhupada, he's so sad. He's so sad. One time I heard Srila Prabhupada saying, he said, let me think, he said the conditioned soul is so stubborn. He said he refuses to surrender to Krishna. Refuses. No, I'm just like a child with a tantrum. No, I'm not going to do it. I just against all reason. You're trying. No, he's just he's just upset. He's going to be upset. And that's how it is. And so Srila Prabhupada, he sees the conditioned soul like this. And so, I'm going to finish now. So, when we think we're normal, go to Delhi, go to London, go to New York, and ask people, interview, what are you doing and where are you living? And you'll just, the university graduates and people going to, is what they want from life is to become successful here in this world, to be comfortable, to be successful, to get one of the seats at the tables, to get a seat at the, to stand in front of the rope during Mangala. Now I've got my walking cane, I'm going to stand in front. Everybody wants to improve their situation here. But it's such a temporary situation. Prabhupada is trying to encourage us that we should put our energy into surrendering to Krishna so that we can have an eternal situation with Krishna. I mentioned when I gave class the other day, I'll say it again, I've seen 3 personal letters that Srila Prabhupada wrote to people. He wrote them a letter. They were having some. Prabhupada wrote a letter, signed by Prabhupada. He said, if you follow the principles, if you chant your rounds every day, dutifully do this, He said, you will see Krishna face to face. He said, this is guaranteed. He's guaranteeing this. This is a fact that you will get this. But first of all, we have to stop aspiring for material life and start to focus on, Prabhupada said, I have nothing to lose and nothing to gain because I don't belong here. It's not trying to accomplish anything here and not afraid of what opportunities pass me by. I'm here temporarily, tourist, on a tourist visa. I'm going to finish now. We're have a few minutes for some questions. Would any of the ladies like to ask a question?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I pay my respectful obeisances of your feet. Thank you so much for the lecture. I heard in few lectures of Srila Prabhupada, mentions, please correct me if I'm not right. Miser means a person who doesn't utilize his time. This is what we are, it means that that person is using time in doing material things, not using his time to do spiritual things. That's the exact meaning. So, as you start with the miser.
I would agree with that, but I would expand upon that, and I would say that it's absolutely correct, and I'm sure Prabhupada said that, and I'm sure you remember it, but I would think that Prabhupada would say that a miser is a person who doesn't use any of the resources that Krishna has given him, to, as well as time. His time, his money, his everything. He just refuses to surrender to Krishna. Thank you. Any other? Go ahead, Manch.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the beautiful lecture. Prabhuji, I would like to ask, as you focused on, I came late, but maybe you have told earlier. So as we were focusing and discussing about, I forgot the question system.
There's 3 symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. The first is that you forget things that you were just thinking about. I can't remember the other 2. But listen, if you remember, then
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You were giving the examples of the movie scripts and other things. So we understand that everybody has given script by the Lord. So according to that script, we are working ourselves, whether we are in the material life or whether we are in the spiritual life. What do you say about that?
I don't quite understand your question. Could you say it in a different way?
Questions means that whatever we are doing in our material life or spiritual life, everything is given to us by Lord. We do not have any independent to do anything by ourselves.
It's a good question. Thank you very much for that question. I was talking about my astrology friend, and with great accuracy, although when I asked him, how accurate are you? He said, about 60%. I think he was more, but he definitely wasn't 100%, and he wasn't claiming to be 100%, but I would say more than 60. I would think 80. But although he could forecast pretty accurately from my point of view, what I was seeing in dozens and dozens of times, that doesn't mean that that is going to happen. because there's always the element of free will and free choices. So it is all about that Krishna desires very much that we're in a loving relationship with him. So Krishna, he's the controller, he's the creator, he can have it any way he wants. Like, for example, we're talking about death is 100%, and it comes, if you do 100 years, you're doing real good nowadays. But there's so many ways Krishna could have designed the material world. He could design it so that we live for 100,000 years. And because it's going to take us so many lifetimes to awaken our spiritual consciousness, it is possible we could do it in average between 58 and 74,000 years. And then for 20,000 years we could meditate. There's so many different ways Krishna could have designed the material world. But he designed to do it how it is. And actually, on different planets, there's different lifespans and different, it's kind of like time and circumstances are different in different parts of the universe. And this is how he's made it. But throughout all of it, he's given us free will. So, yes, we can argue that my material circumstance, this is what God has given me. I heard a story when I was in Bangalore when I was young. We were opening a temple there. And I heard the story of this rich man, and he decided to get a racehorse. So he paid a lot of money for a very good racehorse, and it was going to run, young horse, it was going to run for the first time in on the racetrack at Bangalore. So he went to the temple and he prayed. He said, "My Lord," he said, "you don't see me much here because I don't come very often, but I've never lost faith in you." And he said, "Anyway, I've come, my horse is going to run." And the first prize at the time was, in the 70s, it was 1,00,000 rupees, a lot of money. That was the first prize. It was 1,00,000 for first, it was 50,000, and then 30,000 for third. So he said, "I'm going to put it in. I want to win this 1,00,000 rupees and get the prestige and so on." He had it all planned out. And he said, "My Lord," he said, "if I win the 100,000 rupees, he said, I promise," he said, "right here in that box in the hundi," he said, "I'm going to put 50,000 rupees. And he said, "That's, I'm good for it. So the horses ran, and after a while his horse got out in front, and he had said really a good prayer, and it was winning. But then just at the post, the other one, and won by a neck. There's a camera, it's the other neck, whichever, it's the nose. The nose, they say, won by a nose. The other one put his nose. You see runners doing this also. They run and then they just throw themselves. They just fall over to off balance to get their head before the other person, so that when it's close. So he lost by a nose, and he went back to the temple. He said, "My Lord," he said, "I can't blame you. I never come here. In my heart, all the activities, all the cruel things I've done to make money, and he said, but I was sincere. He said, I wouldn't have cheated you." He said, "and I hope you know that." He said, "Anyway, you've taken your 50,000, so just let's call it a day." So Krishna had already taken his 50,000, and the guy was left with it. If he got 100, he was going to give Krishna 50, and he was going to get 50. So he said, "Well, you've already taken yours, so okay, fine, you didn't try, but I'll just keep my money now." So the point is that Krishna always gives us free will to do whatever we want. And we can, in many ways, justify what we're doing. Everybody does. Duty to family is duty to God. There's so many philosophies about me doing what I want to do. But Prabhupada is saying, as it is, Bhagavad Gita, as it is, what we need to do is do what Krishna is saying and give up the illusion that we're going to somehow or other be comfortable here in this material world, or build something of some endurance or some Prabhu is saying it's abominable. It's an abominable situation. Is there another question?
Excellent. Oh, one more point about the free will.
Prabhu,
Suppose-
let someone else, and I will speak to you as soon as we're finished. I will speak to you. I met this Indian lady. She was from South Africa, and I met her in Mayapur. We were on the bus together. We were talking, and she told me that she was the disciple of Giriraj Swami. And I said, "Oh, Giriraj Swami." And we were together in Bombay building and so on. And I was telling her some nice qualities of Giriraj Maharaj. She said that she was a young girl, and he would come and she liked him and she wanted to take initiation, but she was still a student and this and this and this, but she was attracted to him. And anyway, it came time for her to get married, and her parents arranged a marriage, a suitable boy. So she liked him and he had nice qualities, but she told him, she said, "Listen," she said, "I'm really into my spiritual life, and I want to take initiated, and I want to have deities in my house, and I'm just being very straightforward with you, because that's what kind of wife you're going to get, that's what kind of person I'm going to be, so you should think carefully if this is what you want, because it is what I want, and I'm not going to budge on this." And he said, "You know what?" He said, "I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am very attracted to, my mother reads Bhagavad Gita, and it really looked like he was a nice boy." So she said, "Just to be sure," she said, "I want you to, because I'll tell you whom I'm interested in, I want you to come and meet Giriraj Swami next." So he came and they went to meet him, and Giriraj was there. And she said, "Oh, Maharaj," he said, "yes," she said, I may be marrying this person." And Giriraj, "Oh, very nice." So she said that Giriraj talked to him for about 35 minutes. And she was saying, "Well, what's going on here?" She thought, "It's my spiritual master, and he's just met him, and he's not even looking at me. He's only speaking to him, and that's not right." And at least and so she was getting all in anxiety about this, and all worked up, and what was fair and what was not fair. And then and he said, Maharaj said, "So," he said, you may be marrying?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "I really think." And then he just looked at her, he says, "Well, how old are you?" And she said, "Oh, well," and she was so worked up and so upset, and she said, "Oh, I'm such and such." And then she said, "Oh, I've given the wrong age." And she thought, what was I thinking? She didn't even give the right age. And then that was it. He still didn't look at it. She couldn't correct it. And then the whole thing was... So they did get married. And there was a job opportunity in Australia. So they moved to Australia. And she hadn't gotten initiated at this point. She did later, but they were in Australia. And then Giriraj Maharaj was coming to Australia. And, "Oh, this is wonderful." And then she went, but it was... Australia's kind of out of the way, and not people. I think it's maybe 15 hours flight from here. It's a long way. It's expensive. Not many people go there. There's not a lot of people there. Maybe 100 lakhs of people or something. And anyway, Giriraj Maharaj was there, but it was a big hall full of people and this and that. And she didn't get a good seat. They came late, and so she was, but just happy to listen to Giriraj Maharaj. And he was talking and this and this. So he looked at her and he said, "Well, how old are you now?" And she laughed, because he had, the way she was flustered, he guessed she's given the wrong age. But that was it. So he said, "Well, how old are you now?" And he was laughing and she was laughing, and nobody knew. "What do you say?" "Well, and they were all trying, but it was like a private joke. He was, "How old are you now?" So she just... So, what's your question now?
Yes, sir. Prabhuji, my question was, Prabhuji, that why our hopes are not dying. We still are hoping every day that we will be happy. And continuing to that, still because we are still conditioned. Sometimes when we try to suppress our desires, that leads us into a little depression stage or something. We are just like killing ourselves. So how to proceed to that?
That's a very good question. We have desires, and how do we surmount these desires? Even intellectually we can understand, well, but still we have the desire. It's a very good question. I think it just shows to us the illusion that we are struggling under. The illusion is so perfect, it's so tight, it's so... I gave class the other day and I asked the question. I said that there was a sage. He was rude to another sage who was visiting. The visiting sage cursed him. You become a snake. You're acting like a snake. He became Kaliya, but since he was Kaliya, he was just this mean snake. So what happened to the sage? So does getting a particular body, does that implement that type of desire? Can you have one kind of body and have is the physical body, does that rule our consciousness? Does that rule our there's several areas that I'm interested in, scientific areas I'm interested, and I read everything I can, I ponder. And one of the things is consciousness. What happens when you take a sleeping pill? What happens when they give you some substance that they can cut you open, change your heart, change your... How does that affect consciousness? How does that affect... It's like there's a plant or an artificial something, they've made a molecule which is like the plant, maybe stronger, maybe fentanyl, that you can just be knocked out, they can cut you, you don't know what's happening. How does that... It's amazing for me. I don't know the answer. I don't know how a material substance can affect the consciousness of the jiva. How does the jiva, how is he? I don't know. I don't know that. So it seems it's like that also. The degree of our conditioning is so much that we are just, even after good advice, it's like a person addicted to smoking cigarettes or something, or drinking, they can't stop. They just, any anxiety, they want a cigarette, they want a cup of tea, they want what to speak of alcohol, what to speak of other drugs, what to speak of, I mean, the illicit drugs, especially in the Western world, it's, I think oil is the biggest. I think oil is the biggest economy, and then they estimate that illegal drugs is the next biggest economy. So people, it's huge. It's just that the illusion. So we do agree that addiction to having particular thoughts is very, very severe. And I would say that the way to counter this is by association. And Jiva Goswami in Sandarbhas, he actually says that the most important thing that we can do is chant Hare Krishna. That this is the most important religious principle that we can execute. There's no comparison, nothing compares. But even more important than this most important thing is devotee association. It's the most important thing. So I would advise that anyone who is half serious about understanding what is my real nature and what is my relationship with Krishna, and how can I advance that relationship, and how can I attain stages of prem. So sambandha, abhideya, prayojana, how can I would say that one must associate with devotees. And Jiva Goswami specifies it must be like-minded devotees. Devotees with whom you can relate, devotees who you can, and just have a buddy system, a group that, and you encourage each other, and you don't judge each other but encourage. And I would say that that is what is happening all over the world in the ISKCON temples. And Srila Prabhupada was an amazing man. The Gujarati women used to think he was the best cook, and the sadhus, with examples, they thought he was the best preacher. The Marwaris, they thought he's the best businessman. And people, whatever was their point of view, they would think that Srila Prabhupada had superlative qualities. And he was a very, very amazing person, very amazing person. But for me, from my consideration, from my point of view, I think the most valuable contribution that Srila Prabhupada has made, and the contribution that stands above anything else that he does, and it's very, very difficult because he has that. Prabhuji, we can talk just right now if you want. The contribution that he made that I think is way, and there were so many wonderful contributions, is that he founded this ISKCON society where we can associate with each other, because there is nothing like this in the material world. There are lots of spiritual books, and if we consider different religions and different books, there's lots of spiritual books. And on Amazon you can buy so many nice spiritual books, and they can deliver it to you. You can pay the courier person, and you can go up into your room and you can read this book, and you can get some wisdom, get some encouragement, but then to go outside your front door, back on again, because there's nobody else living by these principles that you're trying to imbibe, and then it's just very, very difficult. There will be some benefit, yes, but it's limited. Where Srila Prabhupada, he set up this ISKCON society where all over the world there are people, and what they want to do is understand what is Krishna, and then they want to put into practice the sadhana of how to attain Krishna, and they're focused on wanting to achieve some level of prem, so that they can just, and that's Krishna. Prabhupada says, he promises, you'll see Krishna face to face. Guaranteed. It's no, you follow this, you will go to. And so I would say that this is the most important thing, that you somehow or other keep in the association of devotees. And it's because we're a preaching movement, because we let anybody in the door who's say, come in, anyone at all. We have a lot of people who are not very serious about Krishna. We have a lot of lazy brahmacharis who they don't have to work, they don't have to pay any bills, they can just, they have to force them to go to the program, there's a register, they have to sign, where are they? They have to herd them like sheep many times. There's not everybody is very serious, but you should find someone who is a little bit serious. I give one talk and I say that when I was young and I was growing up, the school taught me, my parents taught me, then there comes a time in teenage life when you start thinking for yourself and formulating your own ideas. And I said, I can name for you different influences that were in my life. There were speeches that people made. Nelson Mandela, when he was in the dock and he spoke for I think 2.5 hours, give the whole history of the ANC, the whole, like so many famous speakers, there's so many books, there's so many songs, I can identify many things, but I can give you a top 10 things of things that influenced me and how I saw the material world. And I can also give you a list of my top 10 favorite devotees who influenced how I see the spiritual world and how I understand spiritual qualities and how I recognize advancement and so on and so on. And so I recommend to everybody that you make a list of who it is that inspires you. So people come to me and they say, Prabhu, I'm thinking to get initiated. Who should I get initiated by? And every single time I say to them, get initiated by whomsoever inspires you. To be a better person, to be a better devotee, to be a better... Because right now, you're finding it easy, but trust me, there'll be times when it's not easy. There'll be times when it's difficult. Difficult to chant, difficult to go... Life has ups and downs. And even in these difficult times, who is that person who inspires you? Who is that, where you take shelter of that person? But even just friends, even and read their books, go and see them. Make your life around what is giving you spiritual nutrition. What is giving you that? It's very late now. I'm going to finish. Hare Krishna. Where are you from? Delhi. Which part?
East Delhi. Gopal Krishna Maharaj, East Delhi. Vichitra Krishna Prabhu and Vishnu Sadhu.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. That's so nice.
It is their blessings that trying to proceed a little.
Yes. How long have you been doing this?
For the last 16 years.
Wow.
Please bless me that I
Great.
can finish this life and take my exit peacefully, remembering the Lord.
Hare Krishna.
Can I ask you a question? Because you said that we're half serious. I know I'm half serious. I was serious a bit ago.
You're half what?
Half serious. We're half
Yeah,
serious.
yeah.
Right?
Me too.
So, no.
Jayadvaita Maharaj, he told me that he was always invited by all his friends. Come to Russia, all the sannyasis go to Russia, it's a nice program. He said, no, he said, I'm busy. He said, I won't go. He said, even if I did go, he said, someone's sure to want initiation. I'm not, even if I go, I'll never go back. And the person better off with someone that will see, He said, eventually I did go. And he went, and he was at the festival, and he gave class, he gave the thing. And sure enough, a girl came up and said, Maharaj, she said, I want to be your disciple. Some Russian lady, I want to be your disciple. He said, wow, he said, the thing is, he said, I'm not a very good spiritual master. She went, oh, she said, that's so good. She says, because I'm not planning to be a